In engineering drawing, basically we need to make views of an object. Now when I say views, what do I mean by it? If I give you an object, then how it will be seen from the front, that will become the front view. How it will be seen from the top, that becomes the top view. And how it will be seen from the sides will be called as the side view. But where to make these views? So to understand drawing, you need to basically understand first of all the orientation of the planes. Now when I say orientation of the planes, what do I mean by it? Right now we might be standing or sitting on the ground. So the ground becomes horizontal plane. You can have a vertical wall in front of you. So right now behind me there is a vertical wall. So that becomes a vertical plane for me. So there is a horizontal plane, there is a vertical plane. To understand this in a more better way, let's understand it from this problem. What I have done here is I have taken two planes. There is a horizontal plane and there is a vertical plane. So that's the horizontal plane, that's the vertical plane. And if I show it to you in this manner, it makes a plus sign, isn't it? There is a plus sign over here. Now this plus sign basically indicates our quadrant system. There is a first quadrant, there is a second quadrant, then there is a third quadrant, and then there is a fourth quadrant here. So first, second, third and fourth quadrant. So that's the horizontal plane, that's the vertical plane. Now, once you understand the quadrants, there is a first quadrant, then there is a second quadrant, then there is a third quadrant, and then there is a fourth quadrant. So first, second, third and fourth quadrants. So if you take an object and you want to observe how it is to be seen in the front, the top and the side views, what do I do? So imagine there is an object in front of us right now. Over here the object is kept and you are watching it. So here the vertical plane is lying, here the horizontal plane is lying. Take an object, observe it from the front. You are the best observer in this room. So your position is the position of the observer. So when you take an object and you are watching it from the front, we know that the light is going to travel in a straight manner. Now when the light falls on the object will create some shadow which will fall on the vertical wall. So this shadow will be called as a front view because you're watching from the front. So you take an object, you watch from the front. So whatever you are able to see in the front will fall on the vertical plane. So that's called the front view. The same object when watched from the top. So when you watch it from the top, the view will fall on the horizontal plane. So that becomes the top view. So then there is a front view and then there is a top view. Now, this is the most important concept that you need to understand. So let's take an object here. If this is an object, this becomes your right hand side. It is your right hand side. So the object when watched from the right will give us the right hand side view. Now this view will fall on the plane which is on your left. There is a plane here. So this view which falls on the left will be called as the right hand side view. See, the object is watched from the right. The view falls on the left plane. Then it is called as the right hand side view because it was watched from the right. Similarly, if you take the same object and watch it from the left, this is your left side. So watch it from the left. When you watch the same object from the left, the view will go and fall on the plane which is present on the right. So that's your left hand side view. That means the front view will exactly fall on the vertical plane. The top view will exactly fall on the horizontal plane. The right hand side view falls on the left plane and the left hand side view will fall on the right plane. So that is how the views of an object will come. So you can always remember this one point. The front views are always and always associated with the vertical plane. The top view will always and always be associated with the horizontal plane. Now let's try and understand the quadrants in a more detailed manner. So if you remember, this was my first quadrant, that's my horizontal plane, that's the vertical plane. So I keep the first quadrant like this. Then similarly, I can take this as the second quadrant, that becomes a horizontal plane, that becomes a vertical plane. Then the third quadrant, this is the horizontal plane, this is the vertical plane, so that becomes a third quadrant. And finally, we can keep it like this. So that becomes the horizontal plane, and that's the vertical plane. That's your fourth quadrant. So we have the first quadrant, we have the second quadrant, we have the third quadrant, and we have finally the fourth quadrant. So once you understand these quadrants, let's take it a little bit further to understand the views where they are going to fall. So in the first quadrant, as I said, you are the best observer. In this room, there is a horizontal plane and there is a vertical plane. So I've kept the object here. So the front view falls on the vertical plane and the top view falls on the horizontal plane. So now the planes are going to open like this. So if you take the vertical plane, if you take the horizontal plane, they both intersect each other at the x-axis, the xy line we call it. So both of them will intersect at the xy line. So when you open it, this will become the front view, which is falling on the vertical plane, and on the horizontal plane there is a top view which will go below. That means when the object is placed in the first quadrant, the front view will be above the xy line and the top view will be below the xy line. Let's talk about the second quadrant. So we take a second quadrant. So in second quadrant, see, always remember, only the horizontal plane is going to move, and that too always in the clockwise direction. So if I take the second quadrant, so that's the horizontal plane, that's the vertical plane, object is kept here. So I'm going to watch the object. So the front view and the top views, as I said, front view will always fall on the vertical plane, the top view will always fall on the horizontal plane. So now if I take the object, front view will always fall on the vertical plane, top view will always fall on the horizontal plane. So as I said, I'm going to rotate the horizontal plane in the clockwise direction like this. So this was my xy line, this is the horizontal plane rotates, and you can observe that the HP and the VP, they will both coincide. That means in the second quadrant what will happen is the front and the top views will be overlapping on each other. So second quadrant, the front view and the top view, both of them will go above the xy line. So what happened in the first quadrant? So first quadrant was there and I have opened it. So the top view was below the xy line and the front view was above the xy line. Why above the xy line? Because the vertical plane was above the xy line and the horizontal plane was below the xy line. In the second quadrant, what happened? That was the second quadrant. Only the horizontal plane can move and it can move only in the clockwise direction. So the HP and VP both coincided on each other. Hence the front view and the top view, both of them are above the xy line. Let's talk about the third quadrant. In the third quadrant, that was my position of the third quadrant, that's the horizontal plane, that's the vertical plane, and again I am telling, only the horizontal plane can move, it can rotate in the clockwise direction. So you take the planes, you rotate the horizontal plane in the clockwise direction, so this is how it is going to rotate. So we know that the top view is always associated with the horizontal plane and the HP has gone above the xy line. So this has gone above the xy line, this was the xy line, so it has gone above the xy line. That means you can say from here that in the third quadrant, the top view will go above the xy line and the front view, which is going to be coming on the vertical plane, it is below the xy line. So in the third quadrant, top view will go above the xy line and the front view will remain below the xy line. Let's talk about the last quadrant, the fourth quadrant. In the fourth quadrant, this was the position of the fourth quadrant. There is a horizontal plane, there is a vertical plane. So we all know that the front views are associated with the vertical plane and the top views are associated with the horizontal plane. So again I am telling, only the horizontal plane will move and that too in the clockwise direction. So take the horizontal plane and move it in the clockwise direction. So if you observe, both the planes are moving below the xy line. So here the front view and the top view, both of them will be below the xy line. So let's quickly revise all the four concepts. In the first quadrant, the front view is above the xy line and the top view is below the xy line. In the second quadrant, both of the planes are going to be above the xy line. That's why the front view and the top view both will be above the xy line. In the third quadrant, the front view will be below the xy line and the top view will be above the xy line. And in the fourth quadrant, both the planes are below the xy line. That's why front view and top view will be below the xy line. This is the most important piece of information you need to have when you start with engineering drawing. I hope you have understood this concept very well. Keep watching my further videos. Thank you very much.